Hey YouTube, today we'll continue reading Prisoner B-3087. Hang on, let me get my camera to focus. Okay, well it's not focusing, but so today we'll be reading Prisoner B-3087, and today we'll be doing chapter 17, starting on page 130. Chapter 17. After the shower, nothing seemed to matter as much to me. I knew it was a game to the Nazis. Kill us, don't kill us. To them it didn't really matter, but even so, I was glad I had made it through. I had been ready to die, but when water came out of those showers, not gas, it was like I was born again. I had survived, and I would keep surviving. I was alive. The Nazis lined us up, still naked and shivering. First they shaved our heads. With our hair gone, we all looked alike, young and old. Next, they marched us to a different room, where soldiers waited at tables with what looked like big, oversized pencils with wires attached to them. As we worked our way toward them, person after person, I could hear screams of pain ahead of us. I had no idea what they were doing to us, but they weren't killing us. That was all that mattered, I told myself. I could handle pain. By the time I got to the head of the line, I understood what was happening. We were being tattooed. I watched as the man ahead of me had letters and numbers carved into his skin in black ink with an electric needle. When it was my turn, the Nazi with the tattoo pencil grabbed my arm and started to write. The pain was awful as he dragged the vibrating needle over my skin, but I knew better than to cry out or beg him to stop. Besides, nothing could be worse than what had already happened to me. I had been in a gas chamber. I had looked up into a shower head and waited for death to come, and it had passed me by. I was alive. A tattoo was nothing to me. Not in that moment. B-3087. That's what the Nazis carved into my skin. B for Birkenau, 3087 for my prisoner number. That was the mark they put on me. A mark I would have for as long as I lived. B-3087. That was who I was to them. Not Yannick Gruner, son of Oscar and Mina. Not Yannick Gruner of 20 Krakus Street, Podgorze, Krakow. Not Yannick Gruner, who loved books and science and American movies. I was prisoner B-3087, but I was alive. After the room where we were tattooed, we were taken to another room with a huge pile of old, used prisoner uniforms, and told to find something that fit. The soldiers made us run, beating us as close if we took too long to find new pants and a shirt, so we took whatever we could as fast as we could. I ended up with pants that were too short and a shirt that was too big, but I was lucky to get a pair of wooden shoes that fit. That was important. Shoes were everything in camps. I moved fast and wasn't beaten. I could play the game as well as anybody. I had it made this far, hadn't I? I wasn't alive. I was alive. When we were showered and tattooed and dressed again, we were taken to our new barracks. They were worse than any barracks I'd seen. The ground at Birkenau was like a swamp, wet and thick with mud. There were no floors in the barracks. There was no heat or electric light either. The bunks weren't beds, but shelves, stacked 3 tall on top of one another, and they stuffed us in again as they had on trains. There were no mattresses, no pillows, no blankets, just old wet straw. When there was anything at all, there were so many of us we could only lie one direction, or we couldn't lie down at all. It didn't matter. I was alive. I couldn't help thinking it over and over again. I felt something at my feet, deep inside the shelf, and I reached down to get it. It was a scrap of colorful cloth, a bandana, or a handkerchief, probably left there by one of the gypsies who slept in these bunks before us. I tucked the scrap under my head, hoping to use it as some bit of pillow against my ear. But there was something hard inside it. I unknotted the cloth and found an object came with it, a little wooden horse. It was a simple children's toy, a rough carving that just hinted at 4 legs and a head. But it was smooth and dark like it had been played with. Some gypsy boy or girl had loved this horse, had somehow kept it with them always, right up until the very end. Had they known they were going to die, had they left their little horse behind so it wouldn't die with them, so some part of them might survive and be remembered. We have a boy who is 13 today. A man on my shelf said. I raised my head as did one or two others. Who will stand with him? No one stirred. Are there not 10 men here who will make a minion with us? Be quiet. Minyan with us. It's either minion or minyan. M-I-N-Y-A-N with us. Be quiet, someone told him. Go to sleep. How can you care about such things in a place like this? Someone else asked. It is even more important here and now, the man said. Someone scoffed. Tomorrow he will be dead. We all will. None of it matters anymore. I was tired and starving and my arm burned from the tattoo. But suddenly I thought standing in a minyan for somebody's bar mitzvah was the most important thing in the world. Worth losing sleep over. Worth being punished or killed. I'll do it, I said. The men around me were quiet for a minute after I spoke, and then someone else said yes, and another and another. When there were 10 of us, we climbed down onto the muddy floor, and the man who had first spoken began to pray. More men came down then, more than 10, until we filled the whole ground. The boy looked so young, but I knew I could be only 1 or 2 years older than he was. With a start, I realized I had probably missed my own birthday. I was 15 now, maybe even 16. It was winter, but I had no idea what month it was, let alone what day. I had been in concentration camps for more than 2 years. I looked at the boy and remembered my own hasty bar mitzvah in Krakow. I had been so young then a lifetime ago. The ceremony was fast, so he wouldn't be caught. When it was over, the men all whispered Mazel Tov and climbed back onto their shelves. I went up to the boy and pressed the wooden horse into his hands, the only present I could give him. The boy looked at me with his big round eyes. Had I ever been so young? We are alive, I told him. We are alive, and that is all that matters. We cannot let them tear us from the pages of the world. I said it as much for me as for him. I said it in memory of Uncle Moshe, and my mother and father, and my aunts and other uncles and cousins. The Nazis had put me in a gas chamber. I had thought I was dead, but I was alive. I was a new man that day, just like the bar mitzvah boy. I was a new man. I was going to survive. If you want to hear chapter 18 of Prisoner B-3087, look for my next video.